Okay, this is a video showing what I did to bypass the air injection system on my 86 Vet. This is for a couple of you guys there on the Corvette forum. As you can see, it gives a bit of a different look to the motor. This obviously is the kit that you buy right here. It's basically just aluminum brackets with aluminum spacers and some grade 8 bolts and some washers and nuts and a pulley. It says in the kit that you can keep the alternator in the stock location if you use this hole right here, here, but you would have to use a smaller belt, which I think is like an inch smaller. I chose to keep my stock belt right now. So it pushes the alternator out about an inch towards the fender well. I might change it back or change it to the stock location because I want to utilize this bracket. It's there for a reason, and I think it bolts right there. But I think getting an inch shorter belt would be really the way to go in the long run. Basically, what you're doing when you do this bypass is removing the air pump in its bracket. This is the power steering bracket down here. It has stock. You should have a bolt stud that, if I get my hand down there, that is where the shorter dowel is. I'm trying to get a good angle. The bottom dowel. They tell you in the instructions to move that dowel or the stud to this location. I did not do that. I just put a bolt in there and I use a little Loctite on it when I did it. Otherwise you have a stud sticking out here, and it's just, I don't know, this is a little bit cleaner in my opinion. This thing comes in pieces. You just have to figure out how to put it together. There are instructions, but they're very basic, and you kind of got to figure out the best way to use the washers to line everything up and make sure you put a washer behind the nut here on the bearing. The pulley just slides onto a machined dowel here, which bolts in from the back side here. It's actually very easy to do, this whole thing. It has the two dowels here, which just bolt in place of where the stock bracket bolted to for the air pump. Now, on to the important stuff. This is what I wish they would give you some kind of a block off for these in the kit, but they don't, so you're kind of left to your own devices. They say the kit works best with headers, and this is why. Because you're left with the air injection rails. Me personally, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut them off at where they connect to the stock manifold. I'm just going to weld the hole shut. If you don't have a welder, you could take off the check valve, and Home Depot sells those brass threaded caps. There's a guy on the Corvette forum that showed me a picture of what he bought, and I don't really have access to that at the moment, but it's just a brass cap that threads onto that. You could do that. And that gives you the option too of leaving, putting it back to stock if you ever wanted to. I did this when I did my water pump here last week, or this week, whenever it was. This had a stock cast iron water pump, as this is a early 86 model. I got an aluminum water pump. There's a bracket that goes here that is attached to that metal tube that goes between the two injection rails here. I took all that out. And you can see it's disconnected here, and there's one down here that goes to the rear cat converter. I'm going to take all that out. The hardest part of the job is dealing with the air conditioner compressor. You just kind of got to take off your tensioner down there, take the bolts out. There's the air intake for the air injection system that sticks down here in the bottom. It bolts to this bracket here, and you have to take all that out anyways when you're doing a water pump. But So I took that all out. So all the pieces minus the injection rails are off the car now. And then you have all those big black solenoids and chambers that sit up here. All the pieces I took off I haven't cleaned up after doing this yet, so I have them scattered about. But yeah, you have this and this. Down here on the floor, this is that piece that went across the front of the motor, and this is that air intake. It's like a little filter intake thingy. And then I think there's this one over here, which I tossed over here. Yeah. This connected to that one that goes down to the rear cat converter. I just cut it off with a razor right now. It went here and went up underneath the air conditioner compressor. All that stuff comes off. Hang on for the train. Okay, the one thing you do have to do is you'll notice that all the solenoids and stuff that sit up here have vacuum lines going to them, and if it's still got the stock vacuum lines, you're going to have the hard vacuum lines that go under the plenum and back here to the ports. I took all those out because all they do is go to the port, and one teed off and went to the fuel pressure regulator. So I just directly connected the fuel pressure regulator to this now and eliminated all that. Because it literally went to nothing else. Your EGR should be coming off of the throttle body and everything like that, so you should be fine there. The parts that come off, me personally, I saved a lot of weight now doing this because I changed out this heavy ass water pump which was leaking for an aluminum one, and that's much lighter, of course. You're going to lose your stock alternator bracket. I see these on eBay going for about 40 bucks or so, so you could always sell it if you don't want to keep it. Your air pump, which is somewhat heavy, but it's hard to turn to, so that's like a drain on the motor when you're running. The stock pulley for the air pump, the bracket for the air pump, all comes out. I'm just going to keep my stuff. I'm going to box it up in case I do want to put this thing back later, but this is a one solenoid that was with it, but I broke the housing off of it. It's sitting underneath the car. I haven't picked it up yet. Instructions, like I said, are very basic. It's just a picture and a few pictures. They say that you go online, you could get better quality pictures. It's just basically showing you where it goes and how to put it on a little bit. But heck, if you're mechanically inclined and a little ingenuity, you figure it out yourself, and it's very easy. It's a good quality kit. So one thing to bear in mind is also don't do this if your car gets tested for emissions. Where I live, we don't have emissions. A couple counties over, they do. But it's for cars that are 96 and newer, so I'm exempt anyways on this. But if some states or counties around the country test every car of every year, so I don't recommend doing this if you have to go for emissions. The question I had before I did this is, what does it do to the check engine light, and what does it do to the catalytic converters? The response I got on the forum when I asked this was basically nothing. People said everything is fine. I'm worried about the cat converters plugging up, but if they do, I'm just going to probably take them off, run cheater pipes or whatever. But people are swearing that nothing happens to the cat converters for this. Scott Hansen, who is a member of the C4 Corvette forum, he custom burns computer chips for these cars, and he has a website. You could contact him through the forum, because he left a comment and saying on my post originally saying he recommends getting the chip burned, and when he does it, he could eliminate whatever you don't want: VATs, the air injection, EGR. Although I recommend keeping the EGR. He does a performance tune. and I'm going to probably go that route. I think he charges somewhere around $100 to do it, and this day and age, it's easy to do. And if there's any drivability issues or anything like that, that's what my next step is going to be. Is I'm going to go to him and have a chip burned. I might do that anyways because I heard people say good things about that. So yeah, this is basically it in a nutshell. I didn't take the time to film a video while I was doing it. You know, I didn't realize that anybody would really have any questions about it. But it's very simple. If you're mechanically inclined, it's not intimidating at all. It's just the hardest part's that stupid air conditioner compressor over there. If you're even doing the water pump, which I recommend doing if you're going in there. I went to time my car a couple weeks ago when I got a new timing light for Christmas, and I kept seeing little drips while I was running, while I was trying to time it. And I was like, oh man, my water pump's leaking. So I knew I was in for that job. So I went ahead and did it, and when I did it, I got frustrated with the air injection system and figured, you know what, it's coming off to do the pump, it could stay off the motor. So there we go. It does run. I've started up and ran it. I've filled it back up with coolant and everything and did all the burping process on that and all that. So I ran it for probably, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. I started up now, but I don't got the key on me. And it's a stick, so it's a little bit difficult to start while it's up on the ramps or on jacks and everything, because I have to get on my hands and knees, push the clutch in, reach up and turn the key and make sure it's in neutral. But it does run. It seems to run pretty well, although I'm getting noise coming out of here from because they suck air in. So you get like a little, it's like a reverse exhaust leak. So I'll be eliminating those next. But yeah, if you don't have emissions testing and you want a little bit more performance and a little bit cleaner look and easier to work on your motor, much easier, I could get at anything I want to on the front of this motor now, minimal intrusion, because you know, even before even getting at that coolant sensor is a bit of a chore. But you can see right now, it's like right there, boom. And if you're in here, I recommend changing that, because if that thing goes bad, they leak a little bit internally, and then they rot out the prongs on the plug, and then you get all kinds of drivability issues, because that screws with your air-fuel ratio, and you'll have starting issues, especially if the car's warm. Yeah, so $20 part, I recommend if you're in there changing that. But yeah, you get right at the fuel rails now, or the fuel lines, no problem. Everything is easy to get at. So there we go. Good luck.